Being a competitive gymnast at the highest level takes 100% commitment. Just ask Aly Raisman and Laurie Hernandez. Raisman started when she was 2. By the time she turned 8, she quit playing other sports to dedicate her time to gymnastics. Hernandez started when she was 5. Her mom said she had 6 months to learn how to do a cartwheel and a split. Hernandez only needed 2 weeks. Both Raisman and Hernandez went on to become highly decorated athletes and Olympic gold medalists. However, they don't want their sport to define them. How old were you when you each started gymnastics?
I was 5, so 2005.
Ooh, I like that. That's cool.
Oh,
I haven't heard you say 2005. I was 2, so 1996. Wow, that's
so old.
Yeah, I know that. I started with Mommy and Me classes.
Oh,
Yeah.
5's a little old.
Yeah. I mean, I started at 5, and I started with just all the class kids, and my mom was like, if she can do a cartwheel and a split in 6 months, she can stay. And I did in 2 weeks, and I just kept moving up levels. So I don't know, I just got things really quick. So that worked out.
What made you fall in love with the sport, Aly?
So I'm the oldest of 4, so my parents, I was very fortunate that my parents put me in a lot of other sports. Like I did figure skating. My dad would actually coach me in like basketball and t-ball, and I did soccer, and I loved that as well. And I have a lot of really great memories of like my dad being my coach, and it was so fun. But I just loved gymnastics so much, and I was just obsessed with it from such a young age. And I think that that's what's so cool about being a kid is I didn't overthink at the time. When I was 8, I stopped everything else and just did gymnastics, but it wasn't like an overthinking decision. It was just I loved it, and I was like, this is what I want to do. My coach told me I had to spend more hours in the gym if I wanted to move to the next level. So I was like, okay, then I will stop doing soccer and I'll just do this. So I can't explain it, but I just was obsessed with it.
I tried everything.
I really did. Did you?
I did ballet, and then I was like, Mom,
But you're
I want
the
to do
baby,
gymnastics.
right?
Yeah, and then she was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
But did the oldest sibling, your sister, did
My
she
sister,
do a bunch of stuff when she was little?
she was a black belt in karate. My brother did baseball and track, and then I did gymnastics.
Did they put your brother and sister in a bunch of, I'm just curious if it's like, because I think also when you're the oldest, you're just like,
Try
it's
everything.
like, yeah,
My
yeah,
sister
yeah.
did do. I
think I just-
I don't know. I wasn't around. We
Yeah.
have a 11-year age gap, so. Sorry.
You fell in love because you were very good at it. Obviously, your mom said you got to get these in a certain amount of time. You did it in 2 weeks. What else did you love about the sport?
I mean, I really did start because I saw a bunch of gymnasts on the TV, and I remember just like watching and pointing to the screen and being like, Ma, I want to do what these girls do. And she was like, okay, do you really? And I was just really set on doing it. And I remember going to practice and seeing all the older kids do lots of like high-level gymnastics, and I just knew I wanted to stick with it. I also just love performing. Yeah, I love it.
I mean, you're both really good at it. You made it to the Olympics. What was the process for getting on the Olympic team?
You want to take this one?
I mean, I feel like it starts years in advance. They really start keeping an eye out on you when you start competing at like championships, or if you're old enough to qualify to world championships. There's also a lot of international competitions that you can qualify to. So the earlier you can get your name out there, the better. But also, I turned 16 during the games, and that was my first year of senior level like international meets. So really, it's just about consistency and being able to keep up with those around you, I think.
But you had been a junior, and like I think you're not giving yourself enough credit because you've been a junior, and for those, I guess for people that don't know, you turn senior when you're
16 or older.
Or 15 turning 16 in the
As long as
calendar
you turn
year.
on the
yes.
year. Yeah.
So you were a junior, so like the national team and the selection committee like still has their eye on the juniors even if they're not senior yet.
Yeah.
So like you're still being watched.
No,
Yes,
I don't
yes.
think I was like just watched in 2016,
Yes.
but I think that's when it really became real for me, because then I started competing with y'all. Like we would train at training camps together and stuff, and like we were seeing each other constantly at meets and whatnot. So it's not like that environment was new, but being able to actually go and compete on a team with all of y'all, that was new. Yeah.
You competed in 2012 and 2016. You were teammates in Rio in 2016. Aly, I will start with you. What is it like to represent the United States on the world stage?
I think there's a lot of, it's hard to pick just one thing, I think, to describe it. I think there's a lot of different emotions, at least for me. I think, obviously I felt very proud and very honored, but I also, at the same time, I think I wouldn't be human if I didn't say it was also very nerve-wracking and very stressful. I think that, you know, we got so much support and so much love. I think that, at least for myself, I definitely felt that pressure of like, there was so much expectation for us to win. So I definitely felt that, and I can't speak for my teammates, but I think that, you know, I mean, did you feel that pressure to win? I think there was a lot. We definitely, there was a lot of expectation on us, and we wanted to deliver. And yeah, it's such a surreal moment because we work so hard, and you spend so many nights dreaming of it and daydreaming about it, and for it to really come true and actually be here it's terrifying, but also it's a very exciting moment. And you have a minute and a half, and some events, a vault is like what, like not even 10 seconds, and you don't have any do-overs. You want to do well for yourself, for your teammates. It takes a village for us to get there, for our families, coaches. It's definitely a lot. Yeah.
I mean, kind of the same. I think there's also the feeling of like my mom was in the Army Reserve, and like being able to have this idea that you are representing a whole country, but you're representing like everything that it can be, and all the hope and positivity, and like this concept that everyone can move forward as a unit. That was my favorite part of being like, okay, what am I representing here, and like what does this mean to me? And it's so much pressure. It's so much pressure, and I think I feel it more now than I did when I was 16. I don't think I really got it when I was 16. Because you're just young and excited.
Do you ever have dreams you're competing and it doesn't
it's
go
awful.
well? Yeah.
You know what my nightmare is? I hear like, do, 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 do.
Oh my God, I haven't thought about that noise in so long.
But when you like
oh my God.
change events from one to another during championships, they play that song. It's a nightmare for everyone involved. But yeah, overall, it's an honor. It is an honor. Yeah. It's a big deal, and I think we take it with a lot of pride and respect and responsibility. So.
I think both things can be true. It can be. That's the thing about, I think, you know, this generation is we're very honest, and both can be true. You can be very proud and honored and work really hard and be very happy with your success and be proud of your teammates and all the work, and then at the same time you can also be like, that was really terrifying and nerve-wracking. Yeah.
You're both Olympic gold medalists. You're also both veterans of Dancing with the Stars.
Laurie was so good at it.
You won the Mirror Ball trophy. How does that compare to getting a gold medal placed around your neck?
Oh, it's completely different. I mean, before Rio, I had trained for 11 years versus doing 11 weeks on reality TV, and every moment with your dance partner is recorded. You always have a microphone on. I mean, you felt that. Like, there's this constant, like Big Brother feeling of you're always being watched. Like, everything needs to be right, and I think being a perfectionist really came to play for that. But also, like, my partner Val was so patient and kind and so creative, and like really just tailored all of the dances to like my specialties and everything that my body could handle and what I was good at. And it was just a really great collaboration. So that being different worlds, I think they feel very separate, but they both mean just as much.
How was your experience?
My experience, it's so funny. Mine was, I feel like it was around 10 years ago, so it really feels like it was almost a past life. But it was such a cool experience, and I actually can remember, I think I was at the airport when I realized that I was going to be on the show, and I had really wanted to do it, and I remember calling my parents. I was so excited. Like, it's so exciting to be picked to be on the show, and, you know, being able to meet the other people that you're on, and like the hair and makeup, everyone's so talented, and every week the costume teams, they put together these like amazing costumes.
The costumes are crazy.
Yeah, they do
They're
it so
heavy
quickly.
because they like hand design all the rhinestones and
like
everything.
every week, and they have to do everyone's, and then the hair and makeup.
And they have to
everyone's
sneak
so
a microphone
creative
into the outfit
you're
and make sure it doesn't fall out, so they like sew it into.
I remember being very nervous though. It's very nerve-wracking. It's very different than.
I cried during the week. We had to do cell block tango because I was wearing fishnets on live TV, and I was like, my dad's gonna kill me. And my mom was like, you're fine for this week.
Fishnets are where you draw the line. I
mean, I'm cool with it now.
How old were you when you did it?
I was 16.
Wow, oh my God.
Yeah.
I was
They were like, you're gonna be Velma.
I think I was 18. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite dances though. It was crazy.
I loved your final dance too.
Thanks. That's one of my
You were
mom's
so
favorites,
good.
I think.
Yeah, you were so good.
Gymnasts, dancers, arguably most importantly, mental health advocates. Why is that an important cause for both of you?
Sure. Well, for me, it's very personal because it's something that I feel is really important to talk about because I feel like in my personal life I struggle to find someone who doesn't have ups and downs and who doesn't have either anxiety or stress or isn't dealing with loss or isn't dealing with sickness. So many people are fighting their own battles, and I think that a lot of people are suffering or struggling in silence and they don't have a support system or someone to talk to. And I think the more that people talk about it, the more people will hopefully feel comfortable, sharing their own experiences. But yeah, I think it's deeply personal. When I was training and I was younger, it just anxiety and depression just wasn't really talked about, and it was, I think, took a really, really long time for me to understand what my own mental health journey looks like. I'm still figuring it out, but I think even after so many years of doing therapy, I still don't have the answers. It's sort of a never-ending journey, and I think there's really no pathway that gets you on the right way to healing, and Laurie's journey looks different than mine, and I think that's what makes it can be challenging because there's no right or wrong way to do it, but it's really hard, I think, to overcome things when you're struggling, so I think it's important to talk about.
Yeah, a friend of mine who is a psychologist and also a mental health advocate once said, nobody chooses to be a mental health advocate. You kind of get tossed into it. You don't just wake up one morning and you're like, you know what? I mean, if you do, that's great. But most people, unfortunately, you share a story, it resonates with a bunch of people, and then that's kind of the title that you're given because of your bravery for sharing said story. So my mom is a social worker, my sister's a social worker, mental health and the conversation around it ran in my family, which was great. But even when it came to me seeking help for depression, performance anxiety, regular anxiety, you name it, I think my mom just really helped relieve some of the stigma, but it didn't make it any less hard to do that. So that's why talking about it and being able to keep the conversation alive and going, that's so important for so many out there, to let them know, we went to the highest level in our sports and we're still dealing with it. That is a very normal thing, and it's important for us to stick together and talk about it.
You said it yourself, went to the highest level of your sport. Could not have done that without some quality advice. What is the best piece of advice you both have ever received?
I have advice from you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, really?
There was one time,
wow.
It was.
I'm nervous to hear this.
No, it's really good.
Okay.
You're gonna love it.
Okay.
But there was one time, I don't even know if you remember it, because you were also kind of nervous. It was a meet, in-house meet setting type thing.
At the ranch?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I just remember I was so nervous, and I think I had asked you, how do you make the nerves go away? I was really young. I was like, how do you just make them go away? And you had said, they never go away, but you just learn how to deal with it. And that's the best advice, because I always hated this idea of wow, you guys are so fearless. No, please. I was dry heaving during trials in the back before competing floor. Oh yeah, you remember that. It was such a rough experience, but then it's the bravery and the courage to feel those things and do it anyway. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say.
It's so interesting you say that, because I think in gymnastics that did help me, because you don't, no matter, I always feel this way, I don't know how you do, but I always say, no matter how much I prepare for an Olympics or Worlds, it's no matter how much you do, I still felt so nervous, and there's really nothing like it, because the atmosphere is completely different. We never had a Worlds or Olympics in the US, so we're jet lagged, and there's just so many different things, and there's Olympic rings everywhere, and it's so nerve-wracking, but I used to just try to get used to that feeling of being nervous in practice, so I would get used to it. But it's interesting you said that, because my therapist is working on with me now, accepting that I'm gonna feel anxious sometimes, and just instead of fighting it, learning how to which is very hard.
Yeah.
But I would say that one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten is after I finished competing, after both Olympics, I kept getting asked if I was coming back for another Olympics. And it was like as if what I did was just not enough. Like the first question was always, are you going to compete again? And I remember everyone was asking me that after 2016. And I had finished my second Olympics. And I was very proud of that. But it was like everyone kept asking me. And I got invited to meet with Stuart Weitzman. And he's a shoe designer. And he said, don't let the Olympics be the highlight of your life. And that to me was just such good advice, because everyone else made me feel like you're at the peak of your life, and like no matter what you do, it will never be good enough. So like unless you go to another Olympics. And it was just sort of, it was really good advice. And I feel like I do feel like the Olympics isn't the highlight of my life. And I feel it's so interesting. I don't know how you feel about that, but like Yeah. I think that we also we do a lot of therapy, and we really have done a lot of work on figuring out who we are outside of gymnastics. And I would say from knowing you, your worth is not wrapped up in your gymnastics, which is very rare for athletes. And I think that's a really, really, really good thing and really important. And it's something I've worked on a lot, and I think it's like when you give a lot of weight to winning, you give a lot of weight also to not doing as well, and then your worth is wrapped up in that. So I just really loved that advice.
Well, it's also gymnastics is such a big part of our lives, and it's something that we can do and we're really good at, but it's not all that we are. There's always going to be more that we can do, and I totally resonate with all right, are you coming back? What's happening next? And it's can we just be here for a second?
Yeah.
Can we just sit here in this?
Yeah.
Can I not think about the next 3 years of training?
Yeah.
Just let me be here.
Yeah.
So being present and just accepting that things are gonna happen the way that they're gonna happen, and it's also acknowledging all the girls who try to get to the games. They are brilliant. They are so talented and so incredible. And just because they didn't make the games doesn't make them any less worthy of being there, and that's not talked about enough at all. So it's the whole thing is a crazy experience. It's easy to get wrapped up in it, but being able to take a deep breath and just say this is a part of my life. I will look at what happens next when it gets here.
Thank you to the OSU Speakers Board for hosting Aly Raisman and Laurie Hernandez on campus. It was a privilege getting to know them. I hope we can all learn from their advice and not let one thing define us.